What's your opinion on trans women in women's sports? It seems to me that this may be a problem for the left. Hear me out. I look over some threads on this issue, and the overwhelming sentiment on Reddit is, don't be distracted by this non-issue that conservatives want to push. There are only like 10 trans athletes in all of the NCAA, which in a way I agree with. But likewise, if it's such a tiny issue, and it's only 10 athletes we're talking about, then what's the problem with saying, okay, 10, sure, no trans athletes allowed in women's sports, since we're only talking about 10 people? Both sides could make that argument. The sense I get is that people see it as a human rights issue regardless of the numbers. The left sees it as an injustice to those few trans athletes. And so they do think it's important that these trans athletes are allowed in women's sports, not to mention that there could potentially be more in the future. But if there are, say, only a couple of spots available for a college scholarship, and a trans person gets that spot, would it not potentially be an injustice for the biological woman who doesn't get it? If a trans woman ends up on the podium at the Olympics rather than a biological woman, then someone who, I would argue, should have been there, was denied something. Is this not also an injustice? So if the default is that trans women are allowed in women's sports, which is how it had been without any regulation, those in support of that have had their way. It's easy to say, oh, who cares about that? It's only 10 people, if you've had your way. But if somebody wants to ban trans athletes, then it's a human rights issue that must be fought for. You can't have it both ways. It's seemingly unfair to somebody one way or the other. It seems to me that a trans woman likely does have an advantage, and therefore unfair to be competing with biological women when something important like money or scholarships is at stake. I worry about the rhetoric from those like AOC on this. It's like we think, this is just such a tiny issue that only affects a couple people, so just let them on the team obviously, and anything else would be an injustice that I really care about.